When I think about C2 Lesson 11, I'm struck by how we take what students perceive to be empty space in the air around us and reveal it as an invisible wall. Our goal during this lesson is to help students figure out exactly how a storm cloud breaks down that wall. My name is Daniel Indisi, and I'm a high school science teacher who uses OpenSciEd in my classroom, and I'm excited to help you find success navigating this lesson in yours. Let's briefly review how we got to this point in the storyline. During lesson 10, we figured out that energy is stored in the electric field between the charged cloud and the ground. Coming into this lesson, students know the cloud is charged and the ground is polarized. That sets up the main wondering for today, which is how are charges able to constantly build up and then suddenly move through miles of air all at once to strike? It forces them to think about the invisible architecture of our atmosphere. Here's a quick glance at the logistics for this lesson. This is an investigation lesson that will take roughly 2 days. I found it only takes about 25 minutes to prep, mostly in the form of understanding the models that we'll create, so that prep time would go down in future years. Students will need internet-connected devices to do some research, and we'll be reusing the slow-motion lightning videos that they watched back in Lesson 1. The lesson is broken down into two distinct sense-making loops because there is a major shift about halfway through the lesson. For the first sense-making loop, students rewatch the slow-motion videos, identify that air is an insulator, and conduct online research to evaluate how charges move through air. They figure out that strong electric fields can rip electrons from air atoms, which is ionization, creating different conductive channels. This leaves them wondering how this subatomic movement connects to the massive energy transfers that they observe. In the second loop, students read the Power of Lightning article, discuss connections between matter, energy, and forces, and complete an exit ticket. They figure out that light flashes, thunder, and nitrate formation result from energy transfers out of strong electric fields. Finally, they wonder why some places are safer than others when lightning strikes. By the end of this lesson, the class figures out that air is a good insulator because it does not let electrons move easily. They see that the electric field creates ions that form conductive channels, and when a channel connects with the ground, electrons move rapidly to cause the strike. And they link this back to the macroscopic energy transfers like flashes of light and thunder. Let's talk through a couple key instructional moments for this lesson. In part 2, students are looking closely at the spacing of gas particles in the air and discussing why electrons don't easily move across those gaps. This is important because it intentionally problematizes the system. By identifying air as an insulator, it forces students to confront a major contradiction. If air blocks charge, how can lightning happen at all? I watch to make sure students are sitting with that tension. It builds genuine need to research how electrons manage to travel through miles of insulating space. During part 3, students obtain and evaluate information online. I try to make sure they explicitly practice evaluating source reliability rather than just accepting headlines. They learn that headlines can be misleading, and reliable research requires looking at expertise and bias of the sources. It helps them navigate misinformation, which is a critical skill. I think this can also be a great opportunity to discuss the use of AI tools such as ChatGPT. We will discuss this more in the tips and tricks section of this video. For part 5, the class gathers in a scientist circle and uses paper clips to physically represent atoms and electrons, acting out how charge moves through space. This is a pivotal moment because it translates complex text that they just read during their research into concrete subatomic mechanism. You'll see students physically moving paper clips to show electrons being stripped away. You need to ensure that they are accurately connecting their physical actions to the concepts of ionization and stepped leaders, proving that air breaks down in connected segments to form a path. I'll talk more about how I do this kinesthetic activity in the tips and tricks section as well. For part 6, students read the Power of Lightning article and track the connections between matter, forces, and energy. This activity bridges the subatomic electron movement they just modeled back to the macroscopic, observable phenomenon like the flash of light and thunder. I look for how well students integrate these cross-cutting concepts into a unified model. It's a great synthesis moment where they see that energy isn't just appearing, it's transferring out of the electric field into light, sound, and chemical changes. So at this stage, the class summarizes their progress. They know how electric fields ionize air to create a path for lightning and how that transfers energy into light and sound. When we check the driving question board here, students naturally notice that we've answered how lightning forms, but we haven't explained why some structures or materials are safer than others. This naturally points us towards our next steps. We will look at lightning safety data and examine the differences between metals and nonmetals. Here are a few instructional and managerial tips and tricks that work well in my classroom. One strategy I highly recommend is protecting the words we earn. Resist the urge to front load vocabulary. Hold off on defining insulator and conductor until students have actively evaluated the distance between gas particles in the air. Similarly, wait to define ion and ionization until they are holding the paper clips and physically acting out electrons being ripped away from an atom. It makes the term stick because they already understand the phenomenon behind them and gives you something to reference back when maybe they can't remember those definitions. When students are doing their research in part 3, I like to assist with source evaluation techniques that go beyond basic checklists. This is a great opportunity to teach students how to verify information that's generated by chatbots like ChatGPT or Gemini. I stress the importance of checking the source's authoritativeness and looking for peer-reviewed research. Following the breadcrumbs from information generated by chatbots is an excellent way to verify the information that was generated by them. And it also teaches students that you can make difficult text more obtainable by using these tools as a helpful strategy in the future. For the paperclip model, I found you really need a large space, like a hallway, so students can physically spread out in order to build a physical and kinesthetic model using the paperclips. Students will act out the subatomic particle level mechanism of a lightning strike by taking out the roles of the cloud, ground, and atoms. They use cards to represent the nucleus and paperclips to represent the electrons. Physically passing and ripping paperclips away from each other simulates step leaders and ionization. What makes this moment instructionally significant is that it translates abstract text-based research into a concrete tactile experience. When a student is acting as air, has a paperclip physically pulled away, that sensation acts as a direct analog for a strong electric field, breaking an atomic bond. I watch closely to make sure students are actively connecting their physical movements to how air breaks down in connected segments to allow charge to flow. I found it helps to have students switch roles so they can experience the mechanism from different points of view. And I always ask them to state out loud exactly what they did and saw before we head back inside to co-create our final class explanation. Throughout this lesson, at this point, students should have already earned the definition for insulator, conductor, ion, and ionization, and those words can be added to their personal glossaries with the definitions we created. We've also encountered the words again of electric field and nitrates might be new, and so those could be things that you decide to have students enter into there too if they need help with those words. In terms of chart and material management, you'll want to resurface the class consensus model and rules for energy transfer poster from the polar ice unit to help students model their light, sound, and nitrates. Also, make sure to save the paperclip model when you're done. We'll be reusing them in upcoming lessons to make sense of atomic interactions. To wrap things up, students now have a solid grip of how strong an electric field can cause an insulator like air to break down and conduct a massive transfer of energy. In Lesson 12, we'll take these subatomic ideas and apply them to safety, looking at why some structures are safer than others and why being indoors matters. Hopefully, these tips help you plan out everything you need for Lesson 11, and best of luck in Lesson 12. You got this.